Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. I hope it's air conditioning season in LA again, so I hope that the sound is okay. You got to know my favorite guest, Jessa Reed, is back.
Hello. Yay. I didn't know I was a favorite guest. Hell yeah.
And you're like I think, is this your fourth time on?
Yeah. Is it fourth or fifth? Fourth.
I think it could be fourth.
Yeah.
And, someday we're going to find one topic, and I say you and I just do a small podcast, 6 episodes, right? Just because we would never have time, and it would just blow our mind. But just we're going to put out 6 episodes and leave it, and it'll be called something different, and then we'll leave the whole world wanting more.
Yeah.
So let's see what's new. Okay, so last night, as usual, since the last time I've talked to you, we've had 4 million conversations, each of them pulling away another layer of the onion. So everyone, I'm going to tell you my freak out last night. So I have trouble with my car tires. From the day I bought it, I was like, this is where the karma is in this car. It's in the tires. They're always going to be a problem. They always have been. Just got new tires again this year. And, okay, everything's driving along. Last night I'm going to Comedy and Magic Club. Boom, low air light comes on. And I just feel my whole body. Oh, but before this, I fucked up my own story. Sorry for when I swore. So before this, you turned me on to a podcast. Dustin, what's his last name?
Oh, Duncan Trussell.
Duncan Trussell. And he was talking about Gnosticism.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys remember, Jeff Thill was talking about it. And I was like, I got to know about that. And it blew my mind so much that I went and got all these audiobooks at the library, the Gospels of whatever, all this stuff. And as I'm listening to this, I immediately get why I like they talk about Jesus in such a different way than Christianity. And I literally out loud, I go, oh, this is why I freaking love Jesus.
Yeah, huge Jesus fan also, myself.
Right.
And it's frustrating because I can separate Jesus from Christianity, and a lot of people can't.
Right.
But all of my tribe, whatever, the people cut from the same energetic cloth, were like 99.9% of them were indoctrinated at some point because we are from Jesus's crew. But, let's not blame the man.
Right, because the messengers are crazy.
Yeah.
And it appealed to me so much. And the whole thing with Mary Magdalene, which I got to look more into, because then I got to know more about her. So as I'm digging this and I'm getting it, you okay, Courage? Courage is going to cough, everybody. He'll be all right. All right, guy, you all right? In the middle of my podcast? Courage's stomach was upset last night, too. Okay, I'll get you a pill. I'll get him a pill in a minute. This is a very stream of consciousness podcast.
Yeah.
So I pull over to put air in my tires thinking, what is this now? Why is this happening again? Put air in all the tires, which none of them are low. Start back. The low tire light doesn't go on. I call Comedy Magic Club. I can't come because I don't want to be driving home at 10 at night with a flat tire on the freeway. Turn to go back. Go to the tire place down the street from me that is open till 10. They can't find anything wrong with the tires. They put in air, they take out air, they get them all the same. And the guy goes, come back tomorrow. Go let your car sit. We'll see if there's a hole. Come back tomorrow. So the minute I pull out of there, the light goes off. So now there's no trouble. So I get home, my garage door won't open. So I go get my neighbor who says connected garage door. His garage door won't open. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then as I call the emergency number later, after I had a 2-hour conversation with you, and I call, and I'm talking to the lady, well, the garage door won't open. Well, click, the garage door opens. And a squirrel threw a nut at my nose. I know.
I didn't know the squirrel part because squirrels have been coming up like crazy for me.
Oh, really? Okay. So this is the only question you can ask Jessa Reed. So did I upset the matrix? Did something change? I had said when this came up with the Jesus thing, I said, show me a sign. Is this the sign? Like, I don't know what all that was about.
As you started talking about it today, my gut instinct was this has to do with the crossroads that you feel at with comedy right now. And pay attention to when the tires aren't kind of a chariot energy, like pay attention to when the tires are having issues.
And, that's funny because I love going down there all the time, and this is the one where they do like 30 comics, and I felt like I was dragging a little bit, so that I might have been that. And with comedy right now, I'm so burnt.
Yeah.
So, you know what else? So, announce to everyone that you're doing readings now. They're going great.
I am doing readings now.
And
they are going great. Real quick, square peg in a round hole. I do think I'm getting a download. I do think you are supposed to be performing. I don't think you are supposed to be conforming. So you were supposed to be doing your own thing, and instead, which I have said continuously, gatekeeper stuff, right?
Right.
So you're not getting what you want from. You're not successfully following a system that already exists. You're supposed to be creating a new system.
Got it.
And so it feels like you're probably getting a lot of messages that are telling you stop trying to fit into a dying medium and create the new thing.
That sounds awesome. And as you know, I'm going into a year 1, so that might be. Yeah, and that's a great. See, her readings are great already, and she's not even got the cards out. Yeah, I think.
Do we remember what I had just said when the nut hit your nose? Because I have come up as a squirrel in multiple readings. So now I feel like you got locked out of your garage so that we would talk on the phone, and that nut represented something that was said in that phone call. You didn't say squirrel last night. You just said something at my face. And then I can't tell you 5 times a day the squirrel has come up. Because this new Spellcasters Tarot has squirrels all over the place in it. Right after I had come up as a squirrel in a reading I watched on YouTube. And so I've been very tuned into this like squirrel energy.
Wow. I have to think about it. I can't remember. I think I was on a rant. You know what I might have been talking about? Mirroring people. Probably it was about stand-up, and that the people around me are a mirror, and then I'm around someone entitled, so I feel like I'm entitled.
Yeah.
Which also winds up in this whole thing as for, that I'm not going to be accepted. We were talking about middle-aged women. I'm not going to be accepted by the industry, so I'm going to have to do it my own way.
Yeah, which is by design. It's like trying to below your pay grade is what I just got. Like it's trying to get something that isn't even. If you got it, you would know. You would realize you didn't want it. And there is a lot of that kind of stuff I've heard you say recently, which is like, I don't know what I want. Like, why do I want it? I want it because they don't want to give it to me.
Right.
But, and I should get it. But it really is like you're presenting something that is like on this level, but you're presenting it to people that are on this level where there really is like an energetic flow to where you could create it for yourself. And this already like matches my philosophy of why go get a showcase spot when you could just rent a bar and you have a big enough following that you could just roll into a city, do one show that is all you with an opening, 15 minutes. And for all your fans, it's a completely different experience. For just your fans, take all that money, work one night a week instead of, a weekend. Because what are we doing when we're in this old system of comedy? We're stuck around this patriarchal, misogynistic, old energy, gross energy, and we're becoming more and more with this 5D download. How's that for a segue?
Yay!
We are becoming incapable of being around that. There's a split happening between us and them. And we're really being pushed away from the old 3D paradigms. And as a result, we are, I hate the word blessed, but we are really like supported energetically to go do our own thing. And we are magnetized to people of our own energetic cloth. So you'd be surprised. Just go, I know a room in almost every city, but like look at your metrics. Look at your podcast metrics. Here I have this many. You can anticipate like a 10% turnout of your downloads and pitch it on your podcast, book the room, take the entire door yourself, and build your own thing. Fuck these old world douchebags who care more about what you look like. It's a completely different world to do shows without any of that. I can feel it when I talk to you on the phone and you're on one of these runs. I can feel that energy. I can feel that opening for a person who's way less funny than you because he's an old hack. Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it through the phone. It's like, you don't have to do that. You have a successful podcast. You can go wherever you want and do your own thing.
That will be actually my focus next year. And I think I have an idea on that. And you're right. And it's also, I should just be taking risks.
Yeah.
And this stuff, I want more of what I talk about on my podcast in my show. Some of it's in my show, but I feel like everything, and here's our perfect segue to talking about 3, 4, and 5D, which is, I'm going to let you pick up the start with that, but I feel like I'm not taking enough risk.
Yeah.
And that should be the biggest thing. And I think I know a couple things. And then I have a friend that keeps sending me emails from, I think, St. Louis. So I'm going to figure it out and take bigger risks this year, because staying the same ain't going to help nobody.
It's also going to blow your minds. Like, you get more downloads than we get. And we successfully tour cities, sell these rooms out. We're splitting the money. You wouldn't have to split the money. So this is a balance of, we're in this balancing of masculine and feminine energy, and you're at a ton of that feminine intuition, tapped into the whatever, but that balancing of the masculine is now moving forward. Like pushing, taking risks, stepping off the cliff, that kind of like masculine, making things happen. But you're going to find it's not even a risk. You're going to find it's like, what have I been doing? Why have I, what a waste of, so I could get $200 at a I don't even know what showcases pay anymore, but you go, you sell all the tickets in advance, you sell them through your podcast, people come see you. Aaron and I have been doing,
which everyone, Mormon in the Meth Head is that.
Mormon in the Meth Head is that podcast. We sit down on stools and tell stories together. It's a very intimate kind of podcast type vibe. Sometimes we bust out in the stand-up. We do Q&As. This is like, you have your own fans. Why go talk to strangers, drunk idiots in the old world when you've already done it. You've already built the fan base. You already have people that love you and want to see you. Why not just make it yourself?
Okay, that's got to be the next. I'm in my year 1. That'll be my next. That'll go right at the top of the goals.
Yeah, man.
All right. Yeah,
I'm
it's
excited.
Scary. I'm excited, but it is. So now, we're going to talk about the readings after, but everybody, JessaReed.com, go book a reading. You're on fire.
It happened really fast.
Yes.
I think you said it to me many times. Like, I feel like the last time you said it to me was the first time it clicked. But I had some stuff to work through with my own relationship with spirituality. And, I've come on your podcast and talked shit about New Age people before. It was actually the first question you asked me when we met, is you were like, how do you feel about
doing readings?
Readings. And I was like, I think they're cool. And you're like, you think people should charge for them?
Did I ask that?
Yeah, you did. And I was like, weirdly, I have things against certain New Age healers feel like snake oil salesmen to me. They feel like matrix programs to me. But as someone who values readings very much, I would absolutely pay for them. That's absolutely a service, because even as connected as I am with the guides and everything else, I have blind spots when I'm emotionally attached to things. I'm attached to outcomes. Most readings I do, it's like at the beginning I could say, you already know what the answer to this is, but I'm here to confirm it. But anyway, yeah, so I'm doing readings, which really kind of lines up with this next phase of my life. I'm kind of going into a new cycle. We're all going into a new cycle, which brings us to the 5D download.
And before we get to the 5D, so just a little 3D and 4D, like we're kind of in 4 now, right?
So 3D was just the fear-based, dichotomy-based reality, masculine, feminine, separate, yin-yang, separate, light, dark, separate. This is the reality we've been living in since Jesus, or since the beginning of the Bible, whatever, age of Pisces. And in 2012, when the Mayan calendar ended, we got the 4D download. And the 4D download, everyone got it, but nobody knew they got it. A lot of people didn't know they got it. Light workers and everything, everyone was hip to what was happening, but we didn't know what to expect. And the 4D, what I'm learning is that the 4D download was what I call the ether. It's the place where you can tell if someone's lying.
Oh, that's right. You have that great phrase, gift of discernment.
Yeah, gift of discernment. It feels like where we actually are, but it is a passive sense. So it isn't the dominant sense. So when you are talking to someone and they are lying to you, you feel that sense, but like since a lot of us didn't know we got that download, we have a tendency to not trust that. If you've ever been involved with a narcissist, your ability to trust that is severely weakened. And it is different than the 5D download.
Okay.
So that's been around since 2012. How that manifested for a lot of people was social anxiety. Because you're tuned into other people's energy. So now all of a sudden you're feeling all this weird stuff. You don't want to be around people as much, whatever. There's kind of a debate whether we all just became aware of social anxiety around that time, but I had social anxiety in 2005. And nobody did. Everybody was fine with each other for a really long time. Now, granted, I tend to resonate with younger generations than my own generation, but for the most part, when we started to tune into each other and connect to each other, it was unsettling, mostly because we didn't know what was happening. So now we're having all these feelings. We don't know why we're having these feelings.
And the people that were a little bit empathic were suddenly really having trouble, which is a lot of my clients. A lot. They can feel that anxiety now. And, we can say it's social media, but you know what? I also think social media helped a lot of people get out of their own way.
Yeah,
I think it helped me in a way that I did start to connect with people. Now I don't have it on my phone. I don't have Facebook or Twitter on my phone so that it's not an obsession. But it did help some people reach out. It also, I have this weird kind of premise for a joke where I say Facebook was the aliens gave us Facebook to see how we could handle telepathy, and we're not doing well. Because it's just everyone putting their thoughts out there. This is my opinion. This is what, more than you ever wanted to know.
I've never heard anyone else say that. That has been when there are a few things. Number one, the internet was very much, and the dawn of the internet was very much an allegory for us coming back. Because all of these dimensions, when I say dimensions, I'm not talking about timelines, which are alternate realities you can live in. Dimensions are just layers getting stacked on top of each other of like a deeper level of like existing consciousness, right? But each layer just brings us back as one consciousness, because ultimately before the Big Bang, we were one consciousness, and then we split up into a million pieces, and now we're coming back together, and then inevitably we'll split up again. So it seems monumental right now, but it's just our tweak.
That is, and I've got a break in a second, but that is, on these books I'm listening to about Gnosticism, which folks, I'll find a Gnosticism or a Gnostic or whatever the word is to have on. It's one of the things that the Christians got very mad at, because Gnosticism seems like it's kind of before the churches came in and formulated the rules and the way this goes. And one of the things they did not like about Gnosticism is that there's layers of heaven. And they make fun of it like, it's like an apartment building and you get to live up higher. And I think it's probably more like the dimensions you're talking about. It's layer upon layer upon layer.
Interesting. That's in Mormonism too.
Huh. All right, folks, we're going to leave you right there with a question mark, and we'll be right back. Who do tarot readers go for tarot readings? They go to Melissa Sonova at melissasonova.com. She gave me the best reading a couple of months ago that is still resonating and helping me out now. She is authentic and to the point. You loved her on the podcast. She is the no BS tarot reader. She also has a tarot class online right now. Check it out. Just watching the promo, you will see how much fun you are going to have while you learn. Also, check out her book, which is always right beside me when I'm doing my readings or my tarot card for me in the morning. It is called Kitchen Table Tarot, and you will love it. Melissa Sonova, that's MELISSACYNOVA. Check her out. And talk about weird dimensions. That I just feel like you just got here and sat down, and then I looked at the clock and I was like, okay, we got to take a break. Okay, so you're talking about the layers. We went to 4. Everybody got social anxiety. Then we went to 5. Now we're going to 5.
We just got, and I don't think everybody got it, but we just, between these 2 eclipses in July, so it was like the July 3rd or something, and the July 16th. Okay, so we've been working on trying to bring 5 on board for a while. The beginning of the process for me, because I just lived in the 4D and it was pretty chill. There wasn't a ton to it. Manifesting reality was pretty easy, whatever. And then huge tower moments happened in the spring of 2017 for me, leading up to This Is Not Happening. When I was on stage at This Is Not Happening, this is the first time I felt a timeline. And then it just kick-started all of this stuff. I end up running into Aaron, who's a big part of my...
And I want to go back 1 second. So for folks that haven't seen it yet, I can't believe you haven't, we want to see Meth P, THPEE, on the show This Is Not Happening, which was sort of the pinnacle in your career. Now, when you say you saw timelines, what you mean? When you were on stage, you were like, this could go this way or this way, right?
I felt all of a sudden reality went from being a landscape to a moving sidewalk. And I knew exactly, I had a sense. Now I see a gray, it's a gray loop and of the year. And I pretty much know, I have a sensation of what is going to take place. Like right now I'm taking a year off from dating or sex. I say for a year, which would be like May, but I feel something happen in February that is a bump in that road. And then there is, like when I first got to I knew I was supposed to move to LA. And so then I get to LA, and when I'm almost to LA, I get a message that Meth P was postponed for a year. Oh. But then I could still feel it on that sidewalk. And so I was like, no, it's still coming out. And then it took me months of like, I wasn't fighting it, but I was like, I don't know why it feels like it's coming out. And then it came out. Like suddenly they were like, just kidding, it's coming out in 2 weeks. And so it's just kind of been this thing where I can feel the trajectory that I'm on. And then I started to get the sensation of accidentally jumping off of these timelines, and then I had to like learn about how to get back onto the timeline or switch timelines or whatever. So I'm still working on that. This is all like a new level of existence. 5D started popping up in my head because I don't think I called it 4D. Oh, I guess I did in 2012. But my original understanding of the ascension process and the awakening process that I was going to be involved in, I really thought of it as we were going from one thing to another, like a jump cut. And it wasn't until I had been doing this for years and years and years that I started to realize, oh, this is going to be maybe the rest of my life we'll be doing this.
Right.
So 5D was about love. I figured that out pretty early. And then more time went by, the more I started like really getting involved with talking to the aliens more and using psychedelics to do that. And in February of this year, I did psychedelics, and I sat in a room and I just kind of like asked them questions, and they answered questions. And a bunch of the stuff that they said didn't make any sense, but they tell me that. They're like, you're not going to be able to understand this till it happens. And now it's happening. Oh. So now I understand it.
Just a quick interjection. In some of us getting ready for 5D, which I know I keep telling people the astrology from July to January is going to be heavy. Yeah. Like 6 planets retrograde right now, and I don't know, you know, I'm not that much about astrology, but I know we're going to be walking through mud for about 6 months. Yeah. But it was a very, and maybe this is, because sometimes when we talk about this, I think, am I actually in touch with my shadow self, or am I going to miss the ship? So an exercise in shadow self was mirroring and realizing this person that is entitled, I feel entitled, which is wrong. Yeah. And almost when I figured that out, I had a different empathy for this person where I was going to scold them about it, and now I feel like I have to encourage them away from it. Yeah. So it made a flip in how, which would actually be way more loving, punishing, than to be more supportive and be like, well, hey, listen, this is how it is.
Yeah.
You're going to do great, but this is how it is.
It is an interesting thing where, and how it became so clear just now, because I was trying to articulate something like this last night. But the entitlement is funny because it's based in fear of unworthiness, right? Because in reality, you could be like, you're not getting these things that you want because they don't make sense for you. You don't actually want them. You would know for sure that you didn't want them if you got them. And if you really examine why do I want them, it comes from a place of
conformity.
Yeah. Conformity, from fear of risk, but then also coming from a place of like
Other
fear of
people's
rejection.
acceptance.
Fear of rejection.
Yeah.
And so I've seen this a lot in me recently, where it's like, I can accept why I can't have this thing because it's not ultimately in my best interest right now, but I can't accept the other person coming to the same conclusion, because then that's rejection, and that bumps up against that program.
Okay, so, and I took you on a side note there. So everybody work on your shadow self. That's the, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Which I think starts with mirroring who's around me, who's around you.
Absolutely.
Right now. So, okay, so now we're getting the download for 5G.
So we got the download for 5D. 5G is the radiation.
5G is the radiation thing that I have to have Tom and Jenna on about, yes.
So we got the download, and here's the download, and then here's the programming that we have to clear. Everyone's kind of in this place of working out programming around attachment, commitment, codependency, trust issues, love stuff, right? Because the 5D download is love, but it is 5D love. It is unconditional love. It is what 4D was. This is really interesting that tarot has helped bring this into focus for me. 4D was us reconnecting on the mental plane, so air energy. 5D is us connecting on the emotional plane, so water energy, which means 6 is the fire and 7 is earth, which makes a lot of sense to me because of what ends up happening with earth, I think. So right now we are processing trauma in the emotional place, because once 5D is fully on board and we're all fully in it, we're going to have access to each other in a way that is like, I can tap into you and use your talents. It's basically all being on one network. And when you have access to each other like that, like, there can't be trust issues. There can't be codependency. There can't be narcissism. There can't be any of these things. And most of these things we can work through. You can work through codependency. You can work through this. I don't believe that you can work through narcissism. I believe that people who are energy vampires are going to split from us. And this came up in so many of my readings, because most of the readings that I get are about your blocks and about your programming and stuff, kind of the place where I hang out. If you have a narcissist in your life, even if it's your mom, you're probably feeling a need to separate from them. And you're feeling that in a way that perhaps in the past you're like, oh, I can't. I'm her only kid. I can't, she needs me. I can't walk away from my mother.
It's my responsibility.
And that's reaching a tipping point right now. That is because we cannot share this space with vampires.
And when you, two things about energy vampires, because there's a famous psychic, Michelle Belanger, who talks about being an energy vampire, but she is aware and she keeps people around her that want to participate. She is not like somebody go to work that doesn't even know they're an energy vampire and they're talking to you and all of a sudden your eyes are closing.
Yeah.
So when you say energy vampire, do you really mean people that aren't aware?
Okay, so number one, most insidious type of energy vampire would be the narcissist personality. So what a narcissist does, and they change their tactics all the time, but they elicit an emotional reaction from you, and then they steal your energy while doing it. And they have probably played with you for a long time, And they have all different ways of doing it. And when you become hip to one way, they change their tactic. They pick fights with you that are ridiculous so that then you have an emotional reaction. Then when you start to distance yourself from them, then they become very close and sweet and nice. They love bomb you so that they can begin to feed off of you again. And they're just eating your energy.
Wow, I never heard it described like that. That's perfect.
That is exactly
that
what...
That was worth the whole podcast right there.
They have to go.
Yeah.
I can't figure out what they are. They are a parasite. They don't get better. They're not getting better. I don't know. Maybe they get better later, but they don't. Right now, they have to go because they're not just feeding off of you. We're all in this together now. Like once we fully, they got to go. Other kinds of like more passive energy vampires are like the passive aggressive. My example for a passive aggressive is, I have like an aunt who we're all like sitting at a table. There's 10 of us sitting at a table and the server drops off the appetizers across the table from the aunt. And then the aunt's like, you think maybe I could have a little bit of those? I did pay for it. Right. And now everyone, I use this example always, but it's a great example of the passive-aggressive energy vampire because now everyone is giving her energy. Everyone feels like shit now. Mm-hmm. The server feels guilty. We all feel guilty. Where a normal human being would just be like, pass me some of those. But she doesn't want the fucking appetizer. She wants to eat the energy.
And if anybody is watching Big Little Lies, which, by the way, is fantastic.
Oh, I haven't seen season 2 yet.
Meryl Streep, unbelievable as that character. Unbelievable. Watch that and you'll know exactly. If you don't understand passive-aggressive, just watch. Oh, my God.
So if you have to be around one of these people, the passive-aggressive aren't as insidious as the other types. And then
are the narcissists a little bit of there's a book called The Sociopath Next Door, and it's almost identical.
I don't think so. Have you ever tried to read a narcissist? I don't know, would a narcissist ever order a reading? A narcissist, when I climb into their space, it is a room without any noise. It's like a vacuum. There's nothing. And other types of people, there's trauma, there's pain, there's confusion, there's self-doubt, there's all this stuff, and there's nothing in the narcissist.
I think we have on Karen and Kira Can Read, but I think you're right. I don't know that a narcissist would pay for a reading.
Yeah, they're not in the slightest. They wouldn't want to have their mask.
My head almost exploded when we were doing one on Karen and Kira Could Read where this guy asked me about his career. And I was like, this is going to happen. It's going to be a blonde woman. This woman that does it has a kid the same age as you. That's how you're going to meet. You're going to talk about this, blah, 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 blah. On and on. And then he looks at me and he goes, oh, so tarot is real general, huh? And I was like, did you just hear what? You know what I like? I was like,
and then he took the energy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So okay, so we were talking about vampires, and you were saying so narcissists, they just take all the energy out of the room.
Yeah, they gotta go. I don't know. They're not capable of getting better. I don't think. I was discussing this last night with someone. I'm like, do they have souls? Maybe not. There is something that makes you want to feel sorry for them and say like, oh, they have trauma too, because it is allegedly caused by trauma. But no, they just have to go.
It's not to make this uncomfortable, but it's a little bit like the pedophile gene.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can fix that.
The pedophile thing is difficult because they're almost always victims.
You know, and I have to tell this weird story, and please don't anyone be offended by this, but at one point my parents lived next to someone who was convicted of that. In whatever, he did his time and everything, and he was living with his mom. And not only was he the nicest person, but he did stuff for my parents all the time. And you could see when there were children around that something went click. And my parents were like, no, you got to get your kids out of here. Don't. They kind of kept them away.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things, okay, I mean, it's a weird, huge thing, which is he couldn't help himself. And do we get rid of them out of society? Are they? But I don't think it's quite like a narcissist because that element removed, he was, you know what I mean?
Energetically.
And he wasn't an Epstein. He's not a guy that went out, he wasn't a perpetrator or a predator.
This is like a sticky subject. So here is, all right, so from the perspective of tapeworms, this is the reptilian agenda, as I hate that it's called the reptilian agenda, what the alien said it was parasites. I call my guides the aliens in case you haven't heard me on past episodes. They described the elite as parasites. They are the ultimate energy vampires. And that could be what narcissists are because they have a very similar energy. So this group of people are basically parasites wearing human suits, but they are feeding off of our energy. They are constantly triggering us and getting us to complain about them. And by us complaining about them, we are reinforcing their power. We are creating their reality. What happens with the 5D download, but also they are pedophiles. They do have a pedophile island. They are gathering together and what people have called satanic rituals and stuff. That stuff is true.
There are people, yeah.
They are powerful people who are victimizing. They're getting energy from victimizing us, and they do far more insidious things behind closed doors because they only exist off of that energy.
Which is the Epstein thing.
Yes. A pedophile caused by sexual abuse trauma, I don't know. It's a difficult triggering energy
animal
for me to think about because it's connected to trauma for me, so there is a difference. However, if you're in that karmic wheel and you have chosen to be the perpetrator based on you're probably just going to, play out
get
that
help.
karma.
Do something.
Yeah.
Do what you can. Get help. Yeah.
But a lot of that is caused by, those people have a soul. I can feel that they have
They're
a
in
soul.
pain.
Yeah. The elite pedophiles are different than the victim pedophiles, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes actually good sense. Yes, I get that. And believe me, anyone, I'm not
pro-pedophile.
I'm not pro-pedophile
No.
at all. But
I don't get the impression that most of them it'll be a reincarnation thing. It'll be a karmic reincarnation to clear that karma type thing, and probably not in this lifetime.
And it's also a very interesting way to differentiate. And what I mean by that is, and this might be the 5D coming in, is we see a pedophile as one thing. That's it. That's the label. There is no more.
Right.
And I feel like when I knew this person, there was a lot more human there than I'm just a pedophile.
Right.
And yeah, so if anyone has been a victim of that, please, I don't mean any disrespect, but I think that might be part of the 5D, is that we always see people as one thing or two things, when most humans that are not parasites are many things.
Right. I got molested when I was a kid, and I've been processing it a lot lately, and I was thinking the other night how I can forgive the guy who molested me because I can kind of see the pain and trauma that it came from for him. But there was a teacher that I was telling about me getting sexually abused, and she never did anything. And when I think back and touch her energy was so much worse than the guy who was molesting me.
That's so funny you say that, because there was a woman that was setting up Epstein, that was bringing the girls in, that to me, I'd love to see her strung up.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of evil. Well, Epstein is evil and part of the parasite you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's somebody that, boy, we're off on an odd topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. The person that's enabling sometimes which is exactly what that teacher did.
Yeah.
She enabled, that makes you
part of it is
crazy.
because I can't figure it out, but I remember the way that she came at me when I finally, after, over a year, of reporting to her the weekly digest of my sexual abuse, went to someone else, and she was mad at me, which just caused so much more shame and self-doubt and everything else, and all of this. But when I go back, I can kind of be like, oh, I bet I can see where he got hurt. And I can't do that with her, and it could just be because I don't understand it at all. But
she makes the world scary. That makes a person scary, but when no one helps, when no one steps in and says, hey, wait a minute, it is wrong, we got to get you out of there, that's when the world gets scary.
Yeah, I think she really reinforced this idea that I deserved whatever was happening to me. Okay, 5D. We
can take a break.
Okay.
All right, and then I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm just letting you talk about 5D. Okay. psychic medium and buddy of mine, Terry Huberman, is with me today. Terry, you've given me so many great readings and healings, and now you've got everything together in one package. Tell me about that.
I sure do. So this package has energy healings, readings, and coaching.
Coaching, that's the best. And people, they buy the package. You give them coaching once a week?
Yeah, so we meet online once a week, and in between, there's support as well.
And who would this be for?
This is really for folks who are in indecision, needing to get into their intuition because they're blocked or stuck. They need to move forward. And so we explore what the root causes of the problems are.
And helps them get out of their own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrific. And what can they expect from this?
Sure. So moving from anxiousness to confidence, accessing their freedom, joy, and security, and really being in alignment with themselves so they have that clear direction, so they know, aha, this is what I need to do next to reach my goals.
So now there's something that's free so people can talk to you and see if this is for them.
Yeah, absolutely. On my website, terryhuberman.com, there is a page where you can click, and it's the intuitive coaching package. And there is a button there that says schedule a free call. So you go ahead, schedule it. We'll get on a call and you can learn more about this program, and we'll see if this is a good fit for you or not.
See if there's chemistry.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's an odd date.
TerryHuberman.com, TerryHuberman. I highly recommend it, folks. Okay, 5D.
5D. So I think it feels like a year. It feels like a year that we'll be installing this download. But here's where the ether, like 4D, feels like it exists when I imagine it. It's up above my right shoulder. 5D feels like it is goggles in front of my eyes. And what that means is, like, I'm starting to see everything as the energy exchange that it is. Now, obviously, if you are a reader or someone who's in tune, you're like first wave. You've been feeling this kind of stuff for a while, but it's like on steroids now. But it feels like if two of the best actors in the world had a fight in front of you, like staged a mugging out on the streets, you would know for a fact that it wasn't real because you would see the energy exchange of it. And the energy exchange, no matter how good you're acting, the energy exchange is different. You wouldn't necessarily hear it in the ether because I think that actors are capable of, they're in that mental space, right? They're existing in that airspace. That is, so they are able to cry and stuff because they're able to feel that moment. But you cannot, the energy exchange is the energy exchange. The energy exchange is truth. And this is how we are starting to experience reality. And this is going to trump our other 5 senses. So now when we see things physically, which I think is going to be very necessary, because I think that 3D is really trying hard to exert itself right now. And it's so absurd. And so what's happening is that people are watching Trump and all this other stuff. And what I've been saying since 2016, which is, does it not look like a cartoon to all of you? Is that it is really becoming so cartoonish. And it is really like they are putting people in cages not because they want people in cages. They are yelling, send her back, not because they actually want to send her back. They are a narcissist picking an irrational fight to get you to squirt energy at them, period. They are just trying to keep you triggered so that you will stay in this illusion. What happens is this download installs is everyone sees the energy exchange for what it is. And they no longer have the guilt of not doing something. They no longer have the fear of a dystopian reality. They no longer have any of this. They just see the energy exchange and they are like, oh, this is bullshit. You're just doing this to keep me triggered. Wait a second. You're a fucking parasite. You're a tapeworm. You don't have any power. None of this is real, and it just falls. Like that's what it feels like, the current trajectory. I don't want to make any doomsday predictions or anything, but it feels like it's a quick, swift awakening where we just realize,
oh, the dominoes tumble.
they tumble quick. And it's not going to be some slow, we have to legislate our way through everything. It's just kind of a new world pretty quickly because you realize that there is no power. And I never saw Labyrinth, but I feel like there is a moment at the end of that movie, Labyrinth, where she just kind of goes like, oh, wait a second.
Pan's Labyrinth?
No, it's like the David Bowie movie.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay.
I feel like there's just a moment, this guy fucks with her the whole time. I guess I did see it, but I don't remember it. But it pops up in my head all the time where he's just like been fucking with her for a long time. And then finally she just says, you don't have any power. And that's kind of what it feels like. It's just this moment where we are suddenly so aware that we realize that this person, much like the narcissist, is keeping us triggered so that they can take from us. And we realize that there are no elites. There are no 1%. They are only that because we believe them to be that. They are only in power because we believe them to be in power. They are making laws about abortion and everything else to trigger us so that we say, oh my God, they're taking our rights. They can't take our rights. They can't do anything to us without us letting them do it. And it's not through force. It's really through like withdrawing your consciousness from the belief that they have power. And it's happening quickly. I think in this time in 2020, assuming something big, the last time I thought something like this was coming, 9/11 happened and everybody went back to sleep. But I don't think we can unring the spell. I think it is happening so fast that it's a done deal, but I could be wrong.
No, I feel the same. In fact, what kind of feels like right now is a lot of people talked about how, I don't know how this works on a random number generator. I have to figure that out. But they talk about how before 9/11, for about a month to 2 weeks before, all the therapists in New York were getting phone calls from clients they hadn't heard from in years that were like, I feel terrible. All of a sudden something is wrong. Like everybody, like that impact was so strong that it actually was before. The impact came before for some people that were in tune before the towers actually went down.
Interesting.
So I kind of feel like we're in a little bit of that right now. Like I'm not a depressed person and I'm having a tough time pulling it together, but thinking this way makes me feel better because it's being triggered.
Yeah.
So stop it, get out. It is interesting too because it's so funny. I just watched Deadwood, and the sheriff yells at the guy that's the bad guy, and it just blew my mind. The brilliance in this line. He keeps yelling at the guy, "Shut up, shut up." He said, "I've been around a lot of bullies, and you know what? They never know when to stop talking." And I thought, oh my God, that is. What a way. And the more that we ignore, if you like, I turn the news off and I don't watch it right now, but it gets bigger because then when you turn it on, it's like they're trying to yell louder or they're trying to get you to hear more, and it just keeps getting bigger. But it's so
I got swallowed up in 2008 by the crash. So I had been on drugs. You know, I left society and was out on my spiritual meth journey in my early 20s, and then when I got clean, I didn't know what the economy was. I had no idea. My generation wasn't politically involved. We didn't know what the economy, like, I can't say we. I didn't know what the economy was. I didn't go to college. I didn't go to high school. I didn't know what any of this shit meant. I didn't know why other people's money affected my money. I didn't understand any of that. And then I get clean. I'm making good money. I move across the country, and the crash happens. And I am in it. I'm kind of asleep at this point in my life. Like I kind of fell asleep when I got clean, went back to sleep for a while. And I mean, I was aware, but it was a very difficult
But the
to get back to.
day-to-day was more important.
Yeah, I was definitely super 3D. And I remember being at the gym and trying to run on the treadmill, and then the news would come on and talk about the economy and the end of the world and everything else. And I remember not being able to run. Like, I remember it physically slowing me down. I remember it taking all the energy out of my body. And I remember just the fear and the pain and everything else. I remember really tuning into that and being like, oh, I have to unplug from this. Because I was being fed off of. They know exactly what they're doing. Do not watch the news. Do not plug in to that. If it triggers you, unplug. But then it's like, oh, that's coming from a place of privilege, and that's accurate. But here's my question. What are you doing by worrying? Are you doing something? Are you taking action to change this, or are you just feeding it with your fear? Because I am helping by not feeding it fear. Could we do stuff? Like, could we go raid
The cages?
the cages? I'm down. So want to set that up? I'm down. I'll do that. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
We'll get shot, but like, I'm down. But we are not, by feeding the fear and reinforcing the power. So if you do want to take action, if you're someone that's taking action, the action is not complaining about the power that is. It is moving towards the solution.
Mother Teresa, I'm not protesting. I'm bringing peace.
Right. So I have said, like, that, let them keep changing the abortion laws. Let them, because then they're going to force us to do it anyway, to find a way to do it anyway. This isn't the 50s. We're not going back to back alley
alleys.
things. You know how many fucking doctors in this country are anti whatever bullshit laws they're making? We'll just end up, and I've said this on several things, Aaron called it Uber aborts. We'll end up with an app. We'll just do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to come to that. I think the government's going to fall before that. But
I do too, and I also think that, when I see that in, where is it right now? Is it Alabama? That's just kind of, and it's kind of like, well, you know what? It's a couple of people probably have chosen to be the sacrifice and die from that, and then people in Alabama are going to go, what? Or I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to wake up. I agree with you, though. There's a wake up coming, because it's like a crescendo right now that we're all like, wait, you know what I mean? But I like that theory, get in or get out, but don't feed the monster.
yeah, I want to clarify.
And you're not saying don't vote or this and that, but don't
No.
sit around and get worried
It's
about
kind
it.
of the same principle. So if you want to manifest your reality on the 2 cups, right? So you take 1 glass of water, you put the thing that you currently have, the timeline that you're on that you don't like. On the other cup, you put the timeline you want to be on. When you write the timeline that you want to be on, you don't bring anything from the old timeline. So let's say you're currently in debt. You wouldn't write on the second timeline out of debt. You wouldn't take that with you.
And this is for people, this is an interesting exercise where if you want to jump timelines or change your reality. So this was you sent this to me, but I don't know if I read it on the air. So you take 2 cups of water.
2 cups.
2 cups.
1 with water in it, 1 without water in it. The cup that has water in it, you put a label that has the timeline that you're currently on. So unemployed. On the second cup that's empty, you put
Get a job. Have a job.
gainfully employed, making, the more specific the better, but you don't reinforce the thing that you don't want. That is the key. So this is the thing with Trump or whatever the fuck is happening now, which is really just designed to trigger you, right?
Right.
But so by constantly reinforcing the idea of Trump being Hitler and blah, 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 we are creating this reality where Trump being a fucking joke is the reality we should be enforcing.
You know what's a funny thing about that? Have you noticed there used to be these pundits that made a lot of noise on both sides, whether it was Ann Coulter or, I don't know, Rush Limbaugh. I'm sure there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
They are silent now because because his voice is so loud and, but really I think the thing Trump would hate the most was if no one was listening to him.
Well, there's a big shift happening because that is the fucking narcissist. If you look up narcissist in a book, it is Trump. Mm-hmm. It's Trump. Like, he cannot admit that he's done anything wrong. He has never in his life admitted that. That's a narcissist. The narcissist is all ego, no higher self. So they can't, boom, there's that. He cannot, one of my favorite videos the Daily Show put out is Trump fucking up words, but then can't admit that he fucked up words. So he says stuff like, and then DJ, his name is TJ, but he told me to call him both. Like, no, he didn't. Like that, he's incapable. He is the mascot of narcissism. Deal with him like you deal with a narcissist, which is stop feeding them. Do not feed the narcissist. Narcissists will come out with increasingly more outlandish shit just so that you will feed them energy, feed them attention. That's all he gives a shit about. But the whole thing, I was on acid when I saw this, but the whole thing where he stood and did a speech in front of...
Which, by the way, I don't know if anyone ever laughs when you say that, but I feel, that does not judge your credibility at all. In fact, it makes me go, I need to get into some acid.
Because somebody sent me a message, because I did it live on my story. For a long time, I secretly did psychedelics, and then it felt dishonest. So I put it on my story the other day, and someone from back when I was a Christian was like, tried to confront me, like, what about your kids or whatever? And I went nuts on her because, like, listen, psychedelics have great spiritual and psychological benefits.
As they have through time.
Do not post weekly fucking girls' nights where you're drinking alcohol, which is ego juice, and then come at me about 3 times a year doing psychedelics, talking about what about my fucking kids. Bitch, I will. I hate that alcohol is so socially acceptable because it's legal. Who makes the laws? The people that want to keep you asleep.
And you know what? And it really is an amazing thing that pot is legal now. Like that's our win. That's our win. CBD oil, hemp oil, all that stuff now.
Such a allegory for where we are headed. Pot doesn't do it for me; it makes me paranoid. But
the CBD
it helps so
oil
other people.
To me is amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so I also I have to ask people who have to email me after this if them listening to this hour feels like it went by as fast as us.
Has it been an hour already?
We
Holy
have 5
shit.
minutes left, because I usually stay at an hour. But I feel like you just got here.
I know, that's weird.
But this is all the stuff that I call you with, where I'm like, but there's garage won't open in the. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when something like this is going on, like we're talking about this, time is moving faster.
Yeah.
Because we're moving faster.
Yeah. Well, I think we're stepping out of time as a linear thing. I think that we're moving on the timelines, and the timelines are something that I'm really trying to bring into focus. I just think there's something about, so every time we get a new layer of consciousness, I do know that between 4 and 5 was 7 years? Between 5 and 6 is a very short window of time.
Okay, so for people that are processing 5 now, and this is what people have heard me say, I don't know if it was the download or if I could hear Wi-Fi, but I've always said that, where sometimes I'd close my ears and I hear like someone's kind of teletyping to me or whatever, and the last 2 nights, which I have to say, it's we're taping this on July 26th, 27th. We finally broke into that Leo energy, which felt so much better to me.
Yeah.
My astrology guy, I listened to talk about the fire, the warrior fire, the lion power, and I was like, oh, that's why I'm such a, like, I'm in warrior mode way too much. Like, I need to find other mode. Like, even in relationships, I'm in, like, warrior mode. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, no, I got to find that divine feminine side. But so as soon as that Leo energy kind of broke and I felt better, that became way higher pitched. And that's when I thought, well, this can't be the Wi-Fi. Why would I be hearing it at a completely different pitch, where it was like, instead of like, and it's not a rhythm. It's a stop and a start and a little. It's very erratic, and it just happens right before you go to bed when everything gets quiet. And I feel like it's in my head. That's why I thought it was the Wi-Fi. You know, Wi-Fi sends that. So I don't know, but it came in at a higher pitch, and I wondered if maybe that's the download.
What's that thing called? The resonance frequency of Earth is like through the roof.
Oh, so maybe I'm hearing the Earth.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes more sense.
That's the last tiny clue that I got, was that this is the first time we've done the splitting up and coming back together thing several times, but usually we come back together by ditching our bodies and ditching the Earth. So the Earth is just one of us. So we're all souls, but the Earth is one of the souls. She's just playing the Earth. And this is the first time that we're taking our bodies with us. And our consciousness, Earth, Gaia, whatever, and our bodies are all going through the same process. And we will stop dying, having disease, aging, all of this. And they said the clues for how that process works and the evolution of consciousness works and the evolution of Earth works is in alchemy, which I know very little about other than it's the transmutation. Everything has to happen seamlessly, which means we have to take 3D and turn it into 5D. We have to take codependency and turn it into unconditional love.
Yeah.
And so and every one of us who are working on that, we're working on that for the collective. So there are many of us who are transmuting, we're like hacking the matrix for the collective.
And when rising consciousness, all consciousness rises.
Yeah, because we are all one. So I am currently turning codependency into unconditional love. I'm in that process. I'm in that process for me, but I'm in that process for all of us, because we have to go from 3D version of love to 5D version of love. And there's a million things that we're doing like that. Fear of intimacy, all these things. We're all doing it for the collective. Our bodies are also doing the same process, and I've been trying to figure out what that means. I can see what it means for the earth. So how are we healing our consciousness? When raising our consciousness, we are flooding the system with trauma and then boiling it to the surface and scraping off the top, right? And the earth is going through the same thing. She's hitting critical mass of trauma, and it's going to be fine. Those of us who are staying in the fight, going into the higher dimensions, will stay with Earth. The other people somehow leave and go somewhere else, but it's seamless also. That's all kind of fuzzy. And
see, I always wonder if that's one of those things that could have the interpretation of the rapture.
Yes, absolutely.
So
it's the rapture. It's all the stuff's in, but it's I think they will go somewhere else and think that we all died or left, and then we'll pretty much know what happened to them. But first, there's this split of consciousness that's happening right now, where it's getting to the point where we're not even going to miss them, because we have already kind of pushed them out, because we're all existing. And there is a huge split. These people who are wearing red hats and whatever, we're already 2 million years away from them.
I don't think that's coming together. And also, that's like Brexit.
Yep.
And all over the world, this is going on. So this is not just us. This whole split is everywhere. Yeah, the split is happening, and it's happening in a way that people, that's a big part of getting rid of those energies that don't serve you in your life, is because by the time the split is between 5 and 6, or at the beginning of 6, I think. And then, I think that's what it was. Also, these are I don't know what any of this shit means until it happens. So they say things when they told me masculine and feminine, male and female would cease to exist, I thought that meant people's dicks were going to fall off. I didn't know what that meant until it happened. And then I was oh, that's way less supernatural than I thought it was going to be. Right. But of course, the idea of male and female need to cease to exist so that we can embody masculine and feminine energy, which is the only way that you can truly be in power, is to have both of those. So anyway, the thing about the body, which obviously I'm 42, so I'm very interested in how do we stop aging. Mm-hmm. And there was something happening with my body all last year where it was 2 different bodies. And so sometimes my body would require very little food and very little sleep, and it would feel lighter and it would look different. And then a week later, I would be heavy and need a ton of sleep and be binge eating almost, and joint pain and shit, and then back and forth. And so what they said in February was that we've never done this. We've never taken our bodies before, so we're kind of beta testing. And so there is a switch in bodies, which seems crazy, but it's not. No, I think you and I talked about this at that time too. Yeah. I do think so. I would agree with that. Also, there's because we talked about the anti-aging program. Yeah, we talked about this last night. Mm-hmm. So the flooding of your emotional system to raise your consciousness is the key to and I had even said it's going to be something ridiculous, we're going to find out a different way to breathe, it's going to be something so simple. And so there's all this breathing stuff now where people are realizing that they can have psychedelic experiences with certain breathing exercises. I don't know anything about this stuff, but I've heard it talked about. And then ice baths came up several times last week. And the Kundalini, folks, if you go look at a Kundalini breathing on YouTube, it's extremely real. Kundalini training is really sometimes it's sitting looking at someone's eyes for an hour, just this intense, you can't look away, and it's all this stuff that you're what is this craziness, and then you're oh my god, I can't do that, Yeah. But the breathing exercises, you take a look, because there's only a certain amount of time before I'm out, because you could pass out. You could, I mean, it's really that intense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's,
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. And it's the best anxiety. There's a breathing I do up through one nostril, hold it and close the other nostril, blow it out. That gets me out of panic attacks immediately.
Oh, shit.
Which, by the way, I haven't had panic attacks in years, and it was a couple months ago, right up until last week. I've been feeling that, like, whoa, that's the change.
Yeah. There's that. There's also our heart chakras are opening up in a way that they've never been open before. So that feels like a pressure or a nervousness in your chest. Feels a little bit like a broken heart. That's your heart chakra opening.
That's interesting, because, and this is a weird tidbit, but if that's, I started to feel that, and I started taking cayenne pepper, and cayenne pepper opens, I don't know if it thins your blood or opens your blood vessels, and it immediately calmed it down.
Interesting.
But I have never, my family doesn't have heart disease. I've never worried about it, and it was kind of like, what's that about? I can't.
Yeah, this feels like the center of the chest. And it just feels like a pressure, feels similar to an anxiety attack, feels similar to a broken heart. And it does have some broken heart aspects to it. People who are in like twin flame dynamics and stuff will have that too, where it's the opening of the heart chakra that is a big part of this.
Okay,
download.
So we're over, but here's the thing. So people going through 5D or going into 5D right now, what should they be aware of? Their 4D, we got their empathy going. In 5D, it's trauma coming up.
It's trauma coming up. Clear any attachment stuff. There's something called internal family systems. It's a therapy about organizing all of the voices in your head, knowing that every voice in your head isn't one stream of consciousness. If you feel like maybe there's connections in your life that need to be cut out, cut them out. If you can't cut them out, which it's a parent, you can cut them out. Yeah. If it's a sibling, you can cut them out. People you can't cut out are like the parent of your child, your boss. You know, you can kind of cut out the boss. You can just manifest a new job way easier than you think you can. But if you can't cut them out, learn how to firewall. Learn how to shut down and not feed them.
Energetically firewall them. Yeah.
But, work on your trauma. If something about a partner or something else is bothering you, work through what that makes you feel. You know, it's a lot of fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of engulfment.
See your partner as a mirror.
Yes, absolutely.
I have this weird thing going on now where I am looking at everyone as a mirror, which, by the way, you're my favorite mirror. So whenever I say, oh, it drives me crazy when so-and-so, but I've got to look at that mirror.
Yes.
Okay. In fact, that was sort of an inspiration for a deck that I might make, and one of the cards will be the mirror.
Oh, I love it.
And so there's that, and also, and dig in deep to anybody that's bothering you as to what is your mirror to them or your connection to them. And the other thing, I thought this is really weird because you understand when I say, sometimes, especially before reading, I'll say my higher self talk to their higher self kind of thing.
Yeah.
So today, I've been going through this thing with my body and yoga where I'm like, all right, we're going to straighten out the matrix. We're going to bring in great health. I'm not sick, but I'm like, we're bringing in great health all the time. And today, when and this is kind of comes from something you taught me, when I was doing a half moon in yoga, I put my hand on I didn't put my hand on the block, and I heard the block say, "Don't worry, I'm supporting you." And I was like, "What?" And it was like, well, you're communicating with everything. I don't necessarily have a voice, but that's what I do. So you don't have to hold on to me for me to be supporting you. I was like, oh,
yeah, that's very 5D, where there's an energy exchange with everything. The Uber Eats guy brought my food. Now, granted, this was a day that I was doing 5 readings, so it's like hyper amplified, right? Because I'm just in that space, but. The Uber Eats guy brought my food, and I didn't even have to communicate with him to know exactly how his day went. I experienced it as the energy exchange. And that's the thing to tune into, because it is really, like, I had to point out to a lot of people that they were already in 4D, because nobody tells us this. So we don't know, like, oh, I am hearing that person lying, right? You're judging things by your eyes, and they don't line up, and then you feel like you're crazy, whatever. 5D is just the energy exchange of everything. Also, get into astrology. If you have an iPhone, download the pattern. Astrology, tarot, all these things, they are about the flow of energy. It's a new language that we're going to speak. Learn the elementals, learn the difference between water energy, mental energy, because this is a new way of experiencing reality, and having that language is really going to help you. We are becoming extremely telepathic, and I was trying to explain to someone in 3D the telepathic relationship I have with people. And before he even said it, I was like, no, I can't give you an example with a number or a color. In reality, I probably could, but I'm not going to. It's a different language. It's a different language that those of us on that wavelength speak with each other that isn't these tiny, tiny concepts like numbers and colors. And so immerse yourself in that stuff. You will find it easier to communicate with the people cut from the same energetic cloth, which are coming out of the woodwork.
Mm-hmm. They're coming to you. So see who's around you right now. That's your mirror. Firewall the negative people.
Mm-hmm. Cut them out physically if possible, and it's possible. Like, very few circumstances is it not possible.
And here's the other thing. You may be surrounded by a lot of 3D people, and you'll be at work, and everyone loves the new guy, and your stomach is going, no.
Yep.
You don't have to say it to them. Of course, you probably know better, especially when everybody's like, I love him. But watch it later, because everybody doesn't show themselves right away. But you watch that and just keep that in your mind.
Yeah.
You really have to listen.
Yeah. Nice is NutraSweet for real, which was always a favorite catchphrase of mine in 2000, when everyone else would be like, but they're nice. And I'm like, can you not see?
Yeah.
They are not. They are a narcissist.
That, when I do my card of the day, which is on the Facebook page and Periscope and stuff, if I've been a jerk that day, I like to open with I was horrible in traffic, or I had a temper tantrum, because I think the new age has to be brought in as whole people.
Yes.
Not just
very authentic also.
Authentic, yeah, because there's that too good just makes you feel bad.
Well, it's a mask. It's not real. It's a mask, and we can all see behind the masks now. That's the other thing, is that we're all going to see everything for exactly what it is. So there really is. It's interesting to know that everyone's on that wavelength, because I got embarrassed and lied the other day to someone who I knew could hear that I lied, and I didn't lie like it wasn't a malicious lie. It was, I got vulnerable. I thought I got rejected. I got embarrassed. And so I kind of tried to cover my tracks, and then immediately was like, what an idiot. That person can hear you. And so it's really kind of just get authentic, because we can all hear it anyway.
And it gets things over with, and saying what you want. Well, this has been great. Awesome. Yeah. JessaReed.com.
Thank you.
And get a reading. All right, thanks, everybody. I'll see you. Leave me a review if you can. Send me an email of either your mind over matter stories, your whatever's going on with you. I know we got a little deep and weird into the pedophile stuff, but I hope you weren't offended. It just fit. We'll see you next week. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. Everybody have a great week. I'll see you next time. I don't have a catchphrase. I need a catchphrase. I usually have there's your nightmare, but we didn't have a nightmare. All right.
Oh.
All right, everybody.
Get a catchphrase.
Help me get a catchphrase. Send me a catchphrase. Bye.